a quick explanation of how our rain catchment system works. You can see 55 gallon water barrels that are tied into the gutters. So the house all around the perimeter, all the rain comes down to the gutters, into these downspouts. The leaves and everything are filtered out. This little grate right here and come out here. The water can continue down past it. Little flexible hose inlet. It is starting to get a little bit brittle from being out in the sun, but it is Florida, so it kind of makes sense. The base of the barrel we have on a couple of concrete pavers just to help keep it flat and sinking too much into the sandy dirt underneath. These are little grates that help slow down the flow of water, because these things, when it's raining hard, it takes like 15, maybe 20 minutes to fill these up before they're overflowing. So this just helps cut down on the erosion that happens out here on the grass in front of it. 1/2-inch PVC line just plumbed right in there. Small little trench that connects each of the barrels on each corner of the house all the way down the side yard to the other barrel. You can see this one does not have the grate that slows down the flow, so these things just like pour out. You can see it's eroded pretty bad down into the dirt and eating up some of the grass. They're tied in all the way across the yard into these couple foot long irrigation sprinkler heads. They blend in decently with the trees, the apple tree, lemon tree, and just decorative plants back there. But we had to run shallow trench with that 1/2-inch sprinkler line feeding into underneath the dirt down here. 2 more barrels on this side of the house that feed along this side down in here. So directly underneath here is like a 20-gallon collection tank. It's a couple inches underneath the dirt, so that not so likely to burst from freezing. Same thing with the actual irrigation lines. If you want to just use gravity-fed irrigation, we hook up a garden hose. This is the kind of pressure you can expect and the kind of flow you can expect from that, as long as your outlet is obviously below the height of the water. As it starts to use the water that you've collected, it'll slow down slightly. You can also plumb in a pump. So I just have a waterproof aquarium pump under here, so that's why I'm able to get a little bit more pressure. So when it's plugged in, that's the kind of pressure you can expect. You can hook a hose, garden hose, up to this if you want, but the reason I have that hooked up to an aquarium pump is so that I can go back here and then just hands off water the entire back corner of the yard with these, because the height of those is the same as the height of the water barrels themselves. They don't leak until the pump is on, which is not the case with this outlet. So it can be really hands off if you bury the power cable, hook it up to a timer or some sort of float valve, then it'll only pump when you actually have water. Otherwise, depending on how much of the prep work you do, will kind of determine how much hands-on is required in order to get the water out of those barrels. So 200 gallons, a little over 200 gallons total, plus the 20-30 gallons underneath in that collection tank. It takes about an hour or maybe an hour and a half of the pump being on straight in order to drain the barrels, which is pretty good because the barrels are from empty to full in 15-20 minutes. Last thing you have to do is, depending on where the collection tank is and how big of a pump, you want to make sure that you're feeding the pump quick enough at a high enough rate that you're not running the pump dry. And then the collection tank to where you want the supply to ultimately go, you'll have to run a trench. So we have a trench going from this corner all the way to the back corner of the yard.